Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us on the Activate and Illuminate podcast with Mel. I'm your host, Mel. Together, we're going to be diving into some stories of ordinary people doing a little bit of extraordinary things. People who've maybe pushed their bodies, their mindsets, or maybe society's paradigms. So you're going to find yourself maybe wanting to laugh, cry, or even be inspired. We would invite you to share, like, and subscribe, to sign up for our newsletter as well on activateandilluminate.com. Now, just keep in mind that this information that you are going to hear is informational and educational for entertainment purposes only. This does not constitute professional advice of any kind. The views expressed are those of myself and guests only. Listeners are encouraged to seek professional and legal advice regarding their own situations. So, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time, and thanks again for being here. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. Today, we have, honestly, one of the most loveliest ladies you will ever meet with so much wisdom for us. Now, Cheryl McCartney has a perspective about life that honestly just makes me smile. But her perspective has a lot to do around divine synchronicities, around her perspective that she'll be sharing on her journey with cancer, and on the holy grail of truths in her life. So, Cheryl, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Share with us a little bit of a 100-foot overview of your life, what's transpired, and maybe some of the important parts that we'll get into after that.
Right. Thank you, Melanie. Good to be here.
Yeah.
That 100-foot view, wow. I think I've lived how many lifetimes within this one lifetime? If I were to take some of those aspects of my married years and my childhood, I grew up in a small town. You know of it. That's how we met. Our kids were on the soccer field together. And I lived in that small town for 44 years. And I started to ask questions of my own self. It's like, who am I? What's next? And so as my kids got older and a couple of them went off to university, I was like, who am I? Where am I in this journey? So moved from the small town that I knew so beautifully to Edmonton. And that's where I had a dark night of the soul. And I didn't know what was next. But because of that grace of having that, I was able to synchronistically be called to go to Peru for my very first yoga teacher training in Peru and learn how to work with understanding who I was for the very first time, without having the viewpoint of someone else's projections of who I should be or what I thought the projections that were. And then that moved me into more synchronicities, into going to Peru, to the Amazon, where I got to work with plant medicines and working with the plant medicines in the Shipibo tribe and understanding that there is so much more, which I knew, but I didn't know it on a cellular level, that there's so much more to life and death. And through transitions of all of the sorts, what that one does when you're 44 and then all of a sudden you go to college and you take graphic design and you're setting up your wonderful life and just starting to get it together and finding out who I was. It was 2020. And we all know what happened in 2020. So I call it the 3 C's: Cheryl, COVID, and cancer. I was diagnosed with cancer just in January of 2020. And then the world shut down in March of 2020. And my oncologist said I had, and I was like, I do not want to play with what could possibly happen. I need more information. And they would say, you only have one option. This is your option. You have to do standard of care. Didn't matter what my diagnosis was. It's kind of like when they I call it like the Plinko machine. You get this. These are your options. In my case, you get this. This is your option. If that doesn't work, then maybe you might be able to do this. But the side effects are really life altering. And so, of course, when you have a cancer diagnosis, it's like, holy shit. Like, what's going to happen? We're in COVID. I don't know I didn't have the support. We're in lockdown. I have 3 young men as boys dealing with a woman who has a gynecological cancer. And it's like, I don't know how to do this. So having to have some creative conversations, courageous conversations, not creative. They were, but courageous. And so sat my boys down at my dinner table and said, I have cancer. Your mom has cancer. I don't know how to do this, but what I do know is that cancer means love. I took out my little book, I don't know, it was probably a week before, and just wrote down all of the things that I thought cancer meant and all of the things that I knew healing was. Going back to Peru, I knew that healing is not just administering medicine or toxic substances. Healing was so much more than that. And so when we sat down in Cancer is Love, it was just like, wow, this is really big. And then when I went to work, doing the whole debate is like, what do I do for treatment? And at that time, I had a small tumor. There had been no other cancer. I was still feeling really healthy. It was just a small tumor. And I was at work, and my coworker and her husband had passed from a brain tumor. She just said to me, how do you want to do this? And so how did I want to do it? It wasn't, I wanted to do my body no harm. I knew that there was all areas of healing that were to take place. And I knew that our world was having to heal at the same time. So I chose a different route. And that route involved me being a risk taker, trying new things within the medical world, seeing a couple of different naturopathic oncologists, and basically sitting within myself because I had so much time. And when I talk about I had so much time, I am about to approach my 6th-year anniversary for my diagnosis. And being one that chose not to get vaccinated based on some of my doctor's recommendations because of some of the side effects that could happen. I had about 4.5 years of being within, I say, these 4 walls to study what it means to really heal, what it means to understand the human condition, what it means to understand myself, sitting alone by myself for days on end sometimes without having other human interaction. It was really challenging having to be at my dad's bedside when he was going through a really awful cancer journey and not being able to go into a restaurant after I take him to his doctor's appointment. It was a really interesting, sad process, but in that time, it allowed me to understand how not to become the victim. I am not the victim. I don't identify with a disease that has been diagnosed in my body. That's not who I am. It's a part of me and I have to deal with it every single day, but it's not who I am. Yeah, so if we do a big overview, I have lived some really beautiful, beautiful years. All of them. I would say there's probably a couple in there that were really hard and really sad, as I think most people do, but sad in a way of loneliness and lack of connection. And so in the introduction, you talked about the Holy Grail. And it's like finding, Jean Houston said it so well, what does every woman want? And I think the Holy Grail is her sovereignty, her autonomy, to be able to use her voice, to be able to express herself in the most authentic, courageous ways. So overview, child growing up in small town, had my first child and married at the age of 20, raised a beautiful family, had a nice family home. Things didn't go well at the very end. Well, that's why it's the end. And then I went to college at the age of 44 and got this really amazing job, and it was stressful. So when we say we bring things into our lives, I don't think I brought cancer into my life. However, I did have a lifestyle in which I wasn't eating healthy. I was working way too hard. I was trying to impress. I became a martyr to my job. And then I left that job because my autonomy said, you have all of this Peru stuff behind you. You know exactly what you need. So found a job in total alignment, but I think it was too late. I think all of the stress that already happened within my body, it was too late and the tumor had already started to form. And so then comes a cancer diagnosis and COVID and really examining who I am and finding the most beautiful part of every single day and every single morning. And then I have a new man in my life for over 1.5 years now, and it is beautiful and adventurous and so full of love and so full of conversation. And it wouldn't have happened if I didn't have a courageous conversation, if we didn't have a courageous conversation and start a relationship with true honesty and authenticity. It's all about truth when it all comes down to it.
This episode brought to you by protandemcanada.lifevantage.com. What if you could turn on your body to work like it was supposed to? What if you could have it remember how to handle toxins, stress, and the environment like it used to when you were young? What if it worked for your pets too? What if this is not about supplementing something that is missing, but activating something that has gone dormant? About actually turning on your body to make these things again. Learn how to activate your body now. Check us out, protandemcanada.lifevantage.com.
So, what would you say that has been opened up to you as your truth that you didn't see before that this cancer journey has shown you?
Um, it's part and parcel of that diagnosis. Cancer is love. Cancer is having courageous conversations. Cancer is being totally vulnerable. I remember people saying to me, "What does your tumor have to say?" And it didn't tell me a darn thing, and it still doesn't tell me a darn thing. But what does courage have to say? What does authenticity have to say? What are those higher vibrations of grace and quintessence and eloquence and hope have to say? I don't want to live in those lower vibrations. I did that for a number of years, and years trying to scramble how to get out of that. But it all probably started back when I was in Peru. What was the question that you asked? I just want to make sure I get it right. The correlation back to Peru.
The truth that you know now that you didn't know then.
Yeah, so it was the end of my second yoga teacher training in the Amazon. And so, got to talk about bugs. We got to talk about not having power. So, for 31 days, and you go through this process and using plant medicine. So, you're on a pretty strict diet of eggs and the food that they use. And I remember standing on the mountainside, and it was this beautiful mountain. There's sulfur pools around that you could float in. And we were on a silent retreat. And we had had one of the plant medicines. And I remember standing there, and I had a sword in one hand and armor, and I just dropped it, right? Like, it's all metaphorical. I didn't really have that, but for me, I did have it, and I dropped it. So when I came back, it was like, I can no longer pretend. I can no longer not live in the truth of all of the things that I want to fix. I felt like I had great tools in my toolbox, and having some really hard, courageous conversations. Doesn't always match up and align with the real world you're in. But for me, after having that experience of, wow, I have seen in an ayahuasca ceremony, I have seen God. I have felt who is with me. I know who I am, and the abundance of truth and love and grace. It's like, so when I was diagnosed, it's like it all became so relevant around my kitchen table. And that's where I'm sitting right now. In such a short amount of time, is cancer is love, cancer is truth, cancer is grace. Yes, does it have elements of lower vibrations? Why am I not healed by now? I have some really big questions about that, but maybe I'm still on a journey of learning.
So when you experience this, and I know you're still experiencing it, but what would you say to other people out there that are, being hit with hard choices and hard truths, maybe hard diagnoses? What would you say for them to remember first as they're going through this journey, to not go into maybe the lower vibration states as you talk about?
Yeah, what to remember first? I will always remember, and every day I have to remind myself, how do you want to do this? How do you want to step forward and approach every single one of your days? Because a lot of it is a choice. I remember it was right before I met Curtis. He's the man I'm with, the lovely soul. And it was right before my birthday, and I was functionally frozen. I had another relationship that did not end. Here's the thing about that. I will take ownership for allowing a lesser relationship into my life because of cancer and COVID. And when I ended it and I put the key in the door, and I knew what I was going to witness when I did that and all of the things after, I knew that key in the door was stepping into my autonomy. It was stepping into the person that I was really supposed to be. Even
Mm.
though she might be alone for a really long time, that's what I expected. I'm like, who's going to want to date someone with cancer? It's not exactly what you put on your dating profile, is it? And it wasn't what I wanted. I wanted something really authentic and something really true. Yeah, yeah. And so I set myself out on a little mission, and it's started from way back when I started my little red tent coffee cup adventures. Those adventures were finding myself. It was like
Tell us.
4 days into the wilderness with this 35 little dollar tent that I found on sale, and really truly finding myself. And so I went on a little mission, and I asked for some help. So there was a really lovely woman who my dad knew, and she dips beeswax candles, and she made, I don't know, 100 candles for everybody at his funeral. And so I had a box of these candles, and every once in a while she would just pop into my text messages, or she would give me a call and just see how I was doing. It's like, I don't have a relationship with this woman, but I feel a really beautiful something connection with her. And so I called her and I said, hey, I am coming down to Calgary. Can I stay with you? And so we had a really beautiful time together. And I was just, wow, wow, someone truly cares. Like one of those authentic souls that has time for you in their day to reach out of the blue for a total stranger. And so that was the start of me getting out of my functional freeze, of me being so fearful, and me learning that once I step into the flow of synchronicity and wonder and awe and saying yes to life and all of those wonderful things, then life opens up again. And I've had it. I've had it, and then I haven't had it, and I've had it, and I haven't had it. And it's remembering and choosing to look for it, look for the little symbols, look for the little signs. And it just makes life fun. And so here I am living in this paradox of, yes, I have cancer and it's not easy, or yes, I'm going for a treatment, but I'm going to make sure that if I have a hard thing, I am going to or implant something really beautiful, something sacred, and sometimes like totally freaking amazing comes out of it. But it's a choice. It's a choice. Like my last treatment was in Arizona in June, and I knew that it was the week before my birthday. I don't always get to time when all of the shitty things have to happen. I'm like, okay, what do I want for my birthday? Where do I want to be in this world? So it was Southern Utah, and it was Bryce Canyon and Zion National Park in the Grand Canyon. And could I barely make steps? Barely. But I'm like, I am not going to miss that early morning sunrise on Bryce Canyon. I am not going to miss knowing the capacity that my body has to heal. I can be sore and uncomfortable on a couch, or I can be sore and uncomfortable out there. I can be sore and uncomfortable all by myself, or I can be sore and uncomfortable having an amazing conversation, and you won't know. And it's not because I'm hiding it. It's because all of that wonderful stuff that we have in our lives is so much more important. And that's the healing. Do I remember the treatments? Yeah. But do I remember the amazing stuff that's happened around side of this stuff? Absolutely. Yeah.
Your perspective is so refreshing. You said something that I thought about. Now, when you said courageous conversations, tell us what that looked like, because for some of us, we might not even really know what a courageous conversation really is.
Yeah.
Tell us what that means to you.
I think there's two. It's creative. Why do I say creative conversations? I think we do that because I'm creative. Creative conversation to me, there's two parts. You have to have a courageous conversation with yourself. You have to be honest with yourself, because, man, I was one of the ones that was seeing all of those red flags and not having the courageous conversation to address it. I didn't want to ruffle the feathers. So the courageous conversation, the big, big ones, will be life-changing. They're the scary ones that you don't want to have, because on the other side of that conversation, you might end up not being married because you've spoken your truth. That courageous conversation, on the other hand, might be the one where you have remet. So when I met Curtis, I was 6, he was 8. Our moms played ball together. We played in the back of the ball diamonds together. His younger sister was at my birthday party. And then they moved away. And over the years, our families would always see each other at a music festival just outside of the small town that we lived in. And I thought, he has 3 wonderful girls, living the life. He was happy and bouncy. I was having my life experience with my 3 sons and my husband at the time. And then it wasn't until a year and a half ago at the same music festival, I had nothing. I'm like, I was just coming back from Maria's, the woman that hand dipped the candles, and going on a little adventure and going, oh, I feel free again. I finally feel myself. I have my little red tent with me. I'm safe. I have some women in my life I set up 2 chairs because the former family, not my sons, but my former husband, was going to be there. And it was I set up safety protections. Anyhow, free as a butterfly. I was just free and having fun. And for the first time in a very long time, being with people and lots of people and music and fun and conversations. And I wasn't feeling judged. I just got to be me. Yeah, I have a diagnosis, but it didn't matter to me. I just was happy. And when you're in that state of vibration, and so was Curtis, he was just happy. And we just hung out. I was not expecting a relationship to come out of it. And it wasn't until like day 4 of us being together and we're at the volunteer party and we get to share stories. And then we sat together at a campfire and it was like, we're having a truthful conversation. How lovely is this? That we get to dive in pretty deep, pretty quick about some life stuff. And we started chatting on the phone, and my creative conversation, maybe that's my my courageous conversation was, that I have cancer. but you don't know that I have a gynecological cancer. It's tricky to navigate. And a relationship with me, because I am still in treatment, I'm still trying to get rid of this darn tumor, but I am healthy, I'm mentally well. If you want to explore a relationship, we need to have this courageous, courageous conversation. And he just said to me, you are so much more. And more being, you are your whole person. You are life. You are energy. You see the day. You have traveled. You have so much experience. And it's like, I just want to be a part of that. It was kind of like an instant knowing. And so we decided to go camping because he lived in Calgary and I live in Edmonton. And our first date lasted 17 days.
How absolutely delightful.
Yeah. And I think there was a time where, just a brief amount of time where I was on the dating apps and you were just so trying to prove and you're just trying to meld into someone's version of what a good partner would be in your job life description. And it was like with him, I didn't have to have a job life description. It's like each day we're going to wake up and face the day, and that's going to be our life description. This is the path that we're going to follow today. Because I have no guarantees of what a month is going to look like. And I've always thought that. I was never a good 5-year planner, Melanie. I bring it to me, bring in the synchronicity, bring in the flow, because I'm going to say yes to something in life that's going to throw it off track. So let's just throw out the plan. Let's throw out the plan that said that I was only going to live 2 years. Let's throw that out.
But it's in that I see, you saying yes to yourself and you saying yes to that version of your life that probably is what is allowing you to say yes to this version of Curtis that showed up.
Yeah, absolutely. And would I have been in the space to be in a relationship like that without all of the other, not all of the other, it sounds like I had like multiple. I did not. 2, right? My former husband of 29 years, like that's a long time to be figuring it out. And without all of that, there's a gratefulness that comes because we grow from our shadows. We grow from the things that we become. So when you're understanding your shadow and awakening, you're bringing your shadow to light, and then you get to release the gift. And so when I went on my last little red tent coffee cup adventure, saw Maria, and then went about in Okotoks and stayed in a hotel in the mountains, there is a point where the choice is, okay, it's time to live again. Because there was a point, just a really brief point. I try not to let myself ever go there. But it's like, what's the point? Why am I fighting so hard against and spending so much money to cure a disease if this is what life is going to be, of me being in these 4 walls day after day after day without human contact?
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to also add to not be a victim and not to crawl into that victim space. Oh, the world did this to me. Oh, he did that to me. Oh, and it's like, I'm standing up and I'm taking this step over that threshold of whatever that is and saying, okay, I have autonomy. I have choice. I had choice to go to Peru. I had choice to get the tent. I had choice to explore the deeper aspects of myself, to explore the deeper aspects of my former partners, of the people, my relationships. How do I interact with that? My biggest weapon, that one of those ones that I dropped on the mountainside with a sword, was I realized my biggest weapon was silence. So having a courageous conversation is like the total opposite. It's like coming out of that and being prepared to go, okay, I might be on my own, but it's not so bad here. I like myself. I like who I am now. I can be on my own. And I don't think if I was in that vibration, if I didn't step into that, Curtis wouldn't have been the bee to the honey.
Yeah. What do you know about yourself now that silence and that containment taught you?
Silence can be a really beautiful space. It can be a really beautiful space, but you have to curate it. You have to curate it. I surround myself with really beautiful things, beautiful objects. It's bringing meaning to the mundane, bringing meaning to the mundane. So if you were to come over to my place, there is not anything in here that doesn't have meaning. This little owl behind me, Cole gave to me for I don't know, my 40th birthday. He wanted me to have a hoot. This painting, I lived in a little log cabin, and that was the view. Not that that's a particular view, but that's a view that it reminds me of, seeing the canola fields. And my boys would be playing in there, and there was a little toxic little area where things didn't grow, and they called it paradise. It's like my paradise. Yeah, everything has meaning, bringing meaning to the mundane. So sitting here, when going for walks early in the morning, I could totally bypass that. But instead, I take out my camera, I take out the skills that I've developed over the years. I used to be a photographer, and taking the most beautiful sunrise pictures. And it's capturing awe in in a millisecond. And so if I have a gift to give, it would be to transfer the awe that I receive on a daily basis and just give it away. Maybe that's one of the things of having a cancer diagnosis is I'm not trying to make money off of this. I'm not trying to create a career. If something unfolds where telling my story develops into something where having a little money come in would be really nice, but it's not my holy grail. It's not the coffee cup that I hold and fill each day. It is the coffee cup that I hold and fill each day. That's my holy grail. Simple in the mundane, meaning in the mundane. And not like out there meaning, it's like soulful meaning. And I don't need anybody else out there saying, well, you have this, that should be meaningful. You have the nice car, that should be meaningful. You have the nice house, that should be meaningful. So it's uncovered what real, true meaning is and being willing to let it all go.
Is there anything that you're scared of?
Sure. I saw my dad in the last stages of his cancer journey. I've been at the bedside of two very close friends that died way too young. That's one of the things when you're in a cancer circle and I've had 300 IVs of vitamin C. I haven't in the last year, but you get to know people really closely. So the end stages of what cancer could be don't really float my boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I think that pairing the hard things with what is beautiful, what's amazing, what's meaningful. And that can happen within a book. I'm reading a really lovely book, and it's called Drinking from the River of Light by Mark Nepo right now. And so every morning, I used to do morning pages, and that's where my whole life kind of started in the spiritual journey, was doing morning pages. And then I started doing them probably a year ago again. And it was like I was barfing on the paper. And I know that that's not what it's supposed to be about, but it was like, and list taking. And I'm just going to start doing all of the things that I have neglected. And I just wanted my mornings to be meaningful. And that's where it's like, what does my tumor have to say? What does courage have to say? That's more important. What does being true and authentic, what does speaking my voice have to say? What does asking some of the harder questions to some of my friends have to say? How does standing up for myself before I'm like, oh no, that's okay. That has a lot more to say. I have a lot to say. I have a story to tell that is fantastic. It's fantastic.
It is.
And I think it's like, that's why, like, how many lifetimes have I lived in this one? And I feel like I'm on the verge of another beautiful little lifetime. And I do feel like healing is like 100% total, complete healing is still within my capacity, within the capacity between me and God, within my capacity, within my relationships. And I've just transformed a lot of things even in the last 6 months that are healing for generational healing within my mom. Remember when I was diagnosed and I had to tell my mom, like, that's a hard thing for a daughter to have to tell their mom. And the healing that happened was I stood witness to her pain on all levels of her life so that she could finally stand witness to mine. And it's a growth journey. Like, are we there yet? But my attitude with my dad and my mom was, what do 70-something-year-old or 80-something-year-old need? They just need love. I don't have the time. Time just dropped away. I have as much time as I have, but time dropped away. I don't have the time to waste on ridiculous stances or me having a wall anymore of super protection. That was the armor of the silence, of not wanting to share any of the hard things that happened within my life. I only wanted to have the persona of everything's okay. But the reality is I'm holding both. I'm holding something that's very okay. And that's the life that I'm living, the choices that I'm making, the reading that I'm doing, the wonderful man that I'm with, the breakfast that I'm doing, eating, man, he makes the best scrambled eggs. And doing the hard stuff. It's like, oh, great, I got to go for another scan. Oh, great. I have to go back to Arizona and have another treatment, or I don't know what's next. And every time I've had that question of what's next, I just pause. And that's where the silence that we talked about. And I get this little sensation in the back of my head. And it's like, it's out there. And I got this when my son was really little and he had a lot of allergies. And I just thought there are some really smart people out there. And at that time, we're talking like 30 some years ago, we didn't have internet and things just came. Synchronicities would just start falling in. And it was like, oh, and that would lead to another. And now with the access that we have within a digital world, it's just like zoom, 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 zoom. And it's being able to play tennis to lob some things away, or being able to play catch and being able to catch it and go, okay, what is this? How does this align? And so I learned muscle testing when he had his allergies and would do muscle. I would be his surrogate. And I was like, wow, there is something to the energy that we have, the things that we bring into our lives. Is it a strong energy or is it a weak energy? Is it a strong energy? Is it a weak energy? And so I'll be standing in the grocery store and I'll just do a sway. Is it strong for me? Is it weak for me? Is this person strong for me? Is it weak for me? Will it be better in 2 weeks? Are they just going through something? Yes, that's a possibility. So trying to fill my life up with that, which brings me strength, will also bring me healing.
This healing, what kind of possibilities that you know about now that you didn't know about were even possible back then?
Well, there's two, 3, 4. There's so many different communities of health.
Yeah.
And so I just want to go back, and the first initial healing was the ancestral healing in Peru. And when I say
Okay.
ancestors, I don't mean my mom, dad, grandfathers. I mean ancestral healing. We're talking even through the wisdom of yoga traditions. We're going back 5,000, how many years of like, we have medicines within plants. We have energy healing. We have energy leaks. Who's taking the energy from you? There's that. I chose to do a combo of allopathic and naturopathic oncological care. I would have to say in the very beginning, I was not received well for saying, hey, wait a second, there can't be only one way. There can't be only one way to do this. But sure, I was. Didn't have an oncologist for 11 months. I had to beg for one and finally got one in a totally different city. So I have to drive 4 hours to attend my oncology appointments. And he's been really quite supportive. He's been supportive of me going down to some alternative treatments in Arizona, which they tested for. So one of the really nice things that I appreciate, and I'm not going to give everybody's cancer is so totally different where they are. I'm not going to give medical advice, but for me, what fit was they saw me as a person. They did all of the testing, which chemotherapies would actually work best for you. And so I've been undergoing a process called CIPI. It's called chemo precision injections. So they take my highest chemotherapy drugs that react against the tumor, an immunotherapy. They did another medicine, and I can't remember what it is, on my last one. And the tumor shrank away. Whether I'm cancer free, because there's still stuff that goes on, but the tumor shrank away. While I was in Utah, laying on the back of our caravan bus, Captain Curtis drove the Matterhorn, going from one beautiful destination to another beautiful destination. The tumor went away.
Wow.
And so I go through phases of quality of life, of what I'm actually physically able to do on lots of different levels. So yeah, there's which is nice. So that's a combination. It's not just, I've had over 300 IVs, and those range from vitamin C to, there's a plethora depending on where you're at, what's available, but it's not a financial cost. And I'm in a fortunate position where I can make the choice and say, I think my life is worth this. I'm going to spend this much money, but that money is going to come to an end, or synchronicity might plop down if I need it. I'm hoping synchronicity plop down this amazing relationship into my life, amazing adventures. Maybe it has something bigger and better in store for me. That's what I want to believe. And I've had the most amazing Reiki sessions that have Reiki plus talking, which has transmuted a certain energy, and then it happens in real life. And then something else happens in real life that corresponds and heals that path. And I'm just like, holy cow, how did that happen? I couldn't have orchestrated that. I couldn't have written that out in my journal and made that happen. It was another person using their healing abilities to be able to move and draw that into a space of acceptance. You can't be in a cancering situation without accepting. And you can't go into the, I'm not enough. Why did this happen to me? If I only did this, you can't do that. It happened. It happened to me. One of the last people I would have ever imagined it happening to. Just don't go there. And if I do go there, it's not that I haven't, but it's like you got to feel it through. And that's part of the somatic training that I've been doing lately. It's like feeling it through. What is that emotion? What is it holding? What's the story behind that one line that keeps getting repeated over and over in your head? Can we take the big long story where you have some victimization in that and just distill it down? I had a safe place to share what all of that was between certain lines of that story. And then on the other side of that, so I was able to go on stage, and you were there, Melanie. Thank you for being one of my support people. And so on the other side of that stage, it's like, oh yeah, I have a beautiful story to tell that has been processed in a way that my awareness, I just want to say this properly, my awareness of acceptance of all that was has created who I am. And I don't have to have armor anymore. I don't have to put up layers of protection.
In that evening for the audience, I'll say what it was. It was an event called the Bold and Visible Monologues in Calgary. And Cheryl was you told your story, and I'm not certain how many women were there sharing theirs, but you moved the audience to feeling something that I don't believe other people. You moved the audience in such a way with your emotions that we were all left in a state of just absolute vulnerability and feeling that we hadn't experienced before. And it was quite something. It was quite powerful. That story that you shared about this journey, tell us your experience of telling it from that stage.
I think we got to talk about the months of distilling what was underneath each line. And if I had one choice, I think I would have maybe put a little bit more into the lines that were there. Not that they weren't great lines. Some of them weren't my lines, and maybe that's part of the medicine. And we were told that's part of the medicine. This isn't your line. But it's like everything is okay. Come on, Cheryl, get it together. I would have said, come on, Cheryl, you can fix this. And I don't know why. That's part of having autonomy. So when I say having autonomy, so being on the stage and knowing that hundreds of thousands of people could be viewing this and sharing such a heartfelt story. So it was interesting during the process. I was so okay. And then in rehearsal, every time I would talk about, there's a line in there, it's like, and I have quality time with my sons. They have been there even when it's hard. Because man, they have been there. And not just the hard cancer stuff, not coming to Arizona for treatments with me. They've been there through the breakup of a family. That's hard for them. I recognize that. It breaks my heart that they had to go through hard stuff. It's not for me to protect what they're feeling. So having the courageous conversation, it felt like a courageous conversation of saying some of the hard things that we might not face in life. Are you scared to die? That was one of the questions. And when I said it, it was like, I'm asking all of you, have you thought about it? Because it's a really important question to ask yourself, because it determines how you live. If you don't know if you're going to have a year left or 2 years or 10, I can guarantee, and people say, oh yeah, but we all might die of something. We got this. We could get hit by a train. I tell you, when you get a diagnosis, it changes things in pinpoints. It is like my very first little red tent adventure. I pulled like these little cards. They're like, like the oracle cards of animals, spirit animals. And I pulled a mouse, and I'm like, a mouse? Week later, I pulled another mouse. And then the day after I pulled a mouse, I'm like, okay, mouse, you win. It's like, my mice's eyes are just tiny. And if you can view the world through such scrutiny of what's really, truly there, and it's like little mice have these whiskers, and if you can touch the existence with all of your whiskers, what would that be like? When you get a diagnosis, I can guarantee that you are trying to feel your way with your little whiskers, and you're scrutinizing what is truly important. So when I asked that question, it was like, I've answered that for myself. I can say that I just know that there is so much infinite love and communication after one passes. I've had enough people in my life that have communicated after they've passed. And it's different. It's just different. Something is different. We all go through the cycle, birth, life, hero's journey to the final endpoint of a transition into something that I don't know what it is, but I know it's beautiful. And I'm not ready to go there yet. There's just so much beauty and life in this world to be explored, and more synchronicities and auto experience and wonder, curiosity to live in that realm of what's going to pop around the corner tomorrow. What's going to happen this afternoon that I didn't even think about? I didn't plan it. I didn't orchestrate my life to. So we talk about illness. And did I ask for this? No. But were there things? If I could turn back time, I would say people shouldn't work more than 4 days a week. Do not become a martyr to your job. Do not be that perfectionist person that thinks that your employment is so much more than your own personal autonomy or health. If you only have your weekends to do something and you're not doing those things on the weekend, big question is to ask why. My big question was, who am I? Am I this person that works 12 hours a day? Yeah, I have nice boots. Can we have where's the middle ground? Where's the middle? Can we do all of the things? I know that we have to work to be employed, but do we have to work as hard? Do we have to work as many hours? We have autonomy to negotiate our lives. I learned that standing up to some of the biggest doctors. I've had 4 second opinions, and to take all of that information and still go, but you guys haven't done this. I want you to do this. You can't do that. I will find someone that will. I will find someone that will run that test. And I feel for them. I feel for our medical system because their hands can be really quite tied. But we have choice. We have autonomy. We have sovereignty.
Just the courage of going through the medical system on your own. That's a lot.
Yeah. I think I've always been a trailblazer, Melanie. Like when
I think you have too. I think that's why we were like on the soccer field.
Yeah, like I remember questioning, I'm just going to say it. I believe my son was vaccine injured when he was young. And because of that, I started asking some big questions and trying to bring forward some of the research that I did to the medical system. I still to this day don't think that there are many people within the medical system that are willing to look at the different research. And being a layperson at home with so much quality information and papers, I have binders of papers on my particular type of cancer going, that treatment that you would have offered me at home, 0% efficacy, yet you were still willing to do it because this diagnosis leads to this. And then you might be able to go here. But unless you do this, you can't do that. And I'm going, but what about this? This doesn't line up. This is a kink. It's not going to work. So why would I do something so toxic and life-altering to this body? So playing with all of that, it's like, okay, what can I do? We got a problem here. We got to deal with the problem. And we have to deal with life. And we have to deal with relationships within that life. And you have to be a whole and complete person. And you have to hold a lot of balls in the air because you are holding a lot of people's emotions as well. And so when I was on the stage and I knew that you could hear a pin drop when I was speaking. And I was hoping I would be going out there and I'd be strong and I'd have this poise. And we worked on that. Like that's part of somatics. Like, are you red light? Are you kind of caving in and collapsing? And it's like, my story is so vulnerable. I don't know how one could not deliver it stoically. So I'm having to process, is it what I wanted to show up as the world as? Maybe not. But when I think of that day, and I think of going into the lobby and receiving the hug of stops from my mom and my boy's arms, and then 12:30 that night, I walk in the space and everyone is there. I'm like, cancer is love. Your story is love. Being courageous is all about love. It's not about wanting to shame. Yes, we can go into that. But if you have the awareness that your intention is 100% about love, you will be received with love. And if you could still have those courageous conversations and say, hey, I'm noticing maybe something didn't sit so good with you. It's still not sitting good with me. And maybe somebody doesn't have that capacity. I've learned that through wherever we are on our hero's journey, our adventure of life. We don't always have the capacity to face what we need to face when we need to face it. And some people don't in their whole lifetime. And then there's some people that are like, holy shit, she's had a lot to face. Look at that. Look at that. I can do that too.
So tell me about some of your big audacious dreams. We've talked a lot about this, this cancer in this last 5 years, but the Cheryl that is, tell me about your biggest, most deepest, darkest, big visions for yourself. And by darkest, I don't mean I just mean things that you might not have expressed before because it felt so big.
Oh, heck yeah. This is where it gets exciting, Melanie.
Tell me about
You know,
this.
tell me about your big dreams. I'm like, oh, I've actually had some really crazy, like dreams when you're sleeping dreams that like, can I tell you one? I know there were times.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was still working at my really sexy job, wearing my nice boots, 12 hours a day, concerts in the evenings. And I just need a break. Need a break. So we can negotiated 10 days off. So I'm like, I'm going to France. This is great. So I'm sleeping and I dream of this giant walnut. Who dreams of a giant walnut? I certainly don't. And in the same time, so I hashtag everything called the art of sway. And we talked about morning pages, and that comes from The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And so years ago, doing that just opened up a series of synchronicities within my life, doing those morning pages. Anyhow, big walnut. I'm on my flight to France. Air France has a strike. They have a train strike. I'm delayed. Anyhow, get to my Airbnb in Avignon finally. I walk in there. It's this beautiful French. There's like Market Street on the bottom, little stores, like little high-end boutiques. And there I am. And it's like gorgeous white walls, little fireplace mantle. That French classic chic fireplace mantle. And there's one walnut, a vase and a walnut. I'm like, the walnuts are calling. The walnuts are calling. And had very amazing time while I was in France in Avignon. And then coming back, I call it layover love. So you can extend your layovers. And so I had like 8 hours in Barcelona. And so I'm walking through and I feel this pull, like this pull is just pulling me forward into these gardens. And I'm like, I don't know why. I'm just following the pull, because that saying yes to life, that mysterious being, living in the mystery, I just love it. And I walk into the garden and I just start laughing. There's tulips and there's trees and it's beautiful. And I get out my English language translator to talk to the gardener. And I'm like, where's the walnut tree? And he just went, it's just over there. So he showed me where the walnut tree was. So it's bringing the mundane, meaning into the mundane. Someone else could have just taken that walk through Barcelona and left. For me, all of that significance of having this dream of a big walnut, finding the walnut on the mantle, it's like, I am supposed to be here. I think we get clues that you're in the right place at the right time. So I guess part of my audacious big dream is like sharing all of the wonderful, crazy ass synchronicities that have happened in my life, telling the story of who I am beyond cancer, these chapters within my life, and how this arc has happened. And there's like this really beautiful, the third act is what we call it. And if you were to watch a play, it's the third act. What's the message to be delivered at the end of the day, and have fun doing it. I think what lights me up when someone says, oh, you get a sparkle in your eye when you talk about it, it is the synchronicities. It is the wonder. It's like, wow, we have how many billions of people and how many are actually truly alive, truly living in that wonder and the mystery. Is there like something bigger, a bigger presence? For me, there definitely is. I don't know how to define it. It's just something that has a pull. It has beauty. It has love. I call it the universe, for lack of the universe provides. The universe has provided me all of this, saying yes within boundaries, knowing you can't have a yes without a no, because you're saying no to something to say yes to yourself. And it's not selfish. That was one of the things I had to learn. Me saying yes to myself was not selfish if it was done with integrity and love and kindness. And I haven't gotten it perfect. And when I haven't, I've certainly learned from that. And I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe that wasn't in integrity to the relationship or to myself or to that person. Was that nice? I'm better now, for sure. But it takes some of those mistakes that I think that make us human. That's living in the shadows, bringing that to light.
Are you going to write a book?
Well, I've started. How many times, right? All of that time alone. And I started. And it was interesting because the memoir, I can see where part of it fits. I did never want it to appear to be a victim of circumstance. And when you do a memoir, it's kind of like there's that a side that can hold a gossipiness. So what does the book hold? That I think will be revealed soon. And I also wanted to do the process of doing the bold invisible monologues because it takes you out of victimization. And not that I consciously would be aware of holding myself in it. And I think I've done a really good job of not being in there. But we're human. We're going to dip down. It's like, frick, why did that have to happen to me from that person? Or it's like, oh, how did I let that happen to me? Not everything, but yeah. Am I going to write a book? I'm going to write something.
Your words are beautiful when you do write. They absolutely transfer something that not everybody has a gift of. Myself, I of course I can read, but I actually find it very hard to put words to paper. If I can talk it, I can
Yeah.
easily talk it, but I even just getting my thoughts down on paper, I find very difficult. And some people just have the gift to make people feel when they write, and you do.
Thank you. One of my explorations in the last month, I would say, is working with this book. And he talks about how do you write about essence? How do you write about the ineffable? We know it. We all know what that thing is, but how do you tell someone about it?
Mhm.
So I'm uncovering how to tell someone about it with words, how to words to the wordless. That's it. So my biggest gift would be to understand that. And maybe I won't be able to. And what he said, and I love this, is it might take you 6 different variations. And all of those variations are a gift. And all of those variations will hit someone a little different in a different way, in a different time, in a different manner. But if you don't explore what that essence is and try to explain it in 6 different ways, you're withholding a gift because you have it in you. And so I do believe I get feedback. I do have a gift when I choose to use it. I know for me during the COVID time, I really became I'm not putting my words out there I went into big protection, big protection. Thank
Well, yeah. And I have one last thought that I want from you. Just going to pick all the pieces of your thought. Your story is so inspiring, I think, to people that, have lost themselves or have maybe been part of something that they don't feel like they've been behaving as themselves. And when I saw you, now, admittedly, I've only met Curtis once, but I knew as soon as I saw the effect of that meeting that you had in essence been able to be enough of who you were to let in somebody be enough of who they were. And so to people that are maybe late in life, no, I don't want, maybe that's the wrong way to say it, but experiencing love for maybe not the first time. What would you suggest to them that maybe they're just, they keep throwing that ball against the wall and it keeps coming back. And so what would you suggest that to people to maybe tap into a little bit more of who they are so that they find people who are who they are meant to be?
Yeah, we've been in a culture where we dim. We dim ourselves so much. We dim our
Mhm.
light, we dim our beliefs, we dim who we physically can be. I think if we look at mirrors, if you could look through that mirror and not see your reflection and look into the other person's soul and give them some opportunity, and then when they have that and they can give it back to you and you can take it and hold it and make sense of your life through it because we learn about ourselves through our relationships. 100% we do. You have to look into the soul of another person. And if you're too busy in your daily activities of it and resentment starts to creep in, then you got to have that courageous conversation and come from a place of, I did this a lot in our very first few months. It's like, whoa, okay, this is coming up for me. And I know it's coming up from my past and it's here. Can we talk about it? And we talked about it. And I'm like, wow, he actually talks about it and holds space. And it's like, I'm sorry that happened. What can we do different? I don't want to be the trigger, and I don't want to be the trigger for him. And and I don't like using the word trigger, but there are activations, and we are filled, depending on our life experience and our relationships and who we've been in our relationships. There's going to be some activations. I yeah, activate and illuminate. Right? Yeah. Yeah. We activate each other and can you activate in more positive ways? I'm a cup half full cup girl. And because the dissolving of time happened, I don't have time to stew in my whatever it was from 1978 between my mom and my dad. I don't have time for that. But I have time to look at it and go, I want this to be different.
Well, Cheryl, thank you for having the time to have a courageous conversation.
And a creative one.
And a creative one, a courageous and a creative conversation. And honestly, you are an absolute delight to myself personally, and I'm sure to a lot of people out there listening.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me share. Right now, that's as simple as it gets for me. That 5-year plan is maybe not that 5-year plan, but if I get to share, it just means the world in this present moment. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Cheryl. We'll stop that there.
Sounds good.